We learned to ask which corner, as evidently it was not the right one.
This one.
He always offered to bring appetizers, which, as you might guess, could be a problem for somebody who barely made dinner on time. And appetizers always included a shrimp ring. Not any old ordinary shrimp ring, he'd say, but a giant one with huge shrimp. Just wait, it'll be great. The problem was he'd forget it needed some time to thaw. And as one of the kids said, I thought shrimp rings were supposed to be eaten with chunks of ice on them. He did try to thaw them under the hood of his car. The thing is, like most of you, we all waited for Craig to arrive. Because then the gathering got a whole lot more interesting. I know that he sometimes felt a lot of pressure to be the entertainer. And it bothered him periodically, but he couldn't help himself. And he was very, very good at it. I have a video of him with one of the kids, I don't know which one, at about 3 months old. And it's really 30 minutes of us watching Craig play with a baby. Craig with baby airlines, baby riding the dog, baby catching a fish, baby at Camp Ritalin. You know what I'm talking about. Craig loved his family. He loved his nieces and nephews, Alex, Felix, and Keelan, Matt, Amanda, Megan, Jonathan, and Jenna. Though he didn't understand them sometimes, he reveled in their triumphs and was supported with their struggles. He offered ways to earn money to my kids, sometimes physical labor, sometimes research, sometimes translation, sometimes illustrations. He didn't like a handout. When one of the kids expressed an interest in the subject, he'd arrive with books, or send articles, or suggest field trips. World War II, airplanes, horses, Tim Burton, politics, animation, illustration, lots of them. Lots of these subjects and more. For my part, I always knew I had something to go to the museum, art gallery, and yet another performance of Beatlemania. We were supposed to watch the Beatles get back together. He was so looking forward to it. Yeah, we'll rig up a big screen, I'll get some snacks. It'll be great. The kids all had some articles of clothing painted with them, jeans with Paddington Bear amongst them. The painting also extended the kids' lunch boxes, the entry of the under 7 set. He didn't have a lot of time, but he did attend the odd soccer game, the Scottish dance recital, the theatre production, when he could support the kids. I know he was especially proud to attend Keelan's graduate art show a few years ago. He had a soft spot for illustrators and artists. I think he collected the contact cards of each of Keelan's classmates, and I know he had soldered a few when he needed some work done. Whenever any of the kids was looking for something, anything from furniture to art to tools to ideas, the most usual advice was ask Uncle Craig, he'll have it. And he always did, or he knew where to find it. We did that as adults as well. We needed a coffee table, or art, or a frame, or a mirror, whatever. We asked Uncle Craig. He could source it. I asked his nieces and nephews to write down their memories of Uncle Craig shortly after November 18th. Here are some of them. So I should say that frozen shrimp ring and late are mentioned by each and every one of them. The little yellow school bus that Craig had in the late 90s. No seats, just a floor, and he'd pile the kids in the back and drive them for ice cream while they rolled around. Craig would be yelling at the window, "Children for sale, I have children for sale."
That's what you would say.
I should also say the random public yelling was also mentioned by each of the kids. Presents wrapped in comics, some were the latest videos, watermarked with FBI for awards distribution only. Some came from the Disney locker. Like every uncle had a Disney locker. His in was supplied Simpsons quotes. Trips to the movies, where he'd ask the ticket seller for 4 tickets to the film. "I'd like to spend all day cleaning up my room, please." And the kids would just be, "Oh." On a more serious side, the kids also noticed his capacity for hard work, like he had little men inside him shoveling coal into an engine. His care and compassion, intensive side with his bees, his owl Chippy, his raccoon Rocky, all animals really. His curiosity about things and capacity to become interested in a subject and be compelled to learn everything about it. He always had some niche knowledge about something or other. If he didn't know how to do it, he learned. Case in point, keeping bees. Finally, as his oldest sister, I kind of sort of remember visiting him in the hospital when he was born. As sibling relationships often do, We peaked and valleyed over the years, depending on where we were in our lives. I lived with them for a few months in 1980 in a cottage in the back of an old house in Thornhill. It was like living in a forest, his perfect place. Not so much mine. I had to trudge through the snow in my school shoes to get back there. I was a supply teacher at our alumnus, Thornhill Secondary School, at the same time he was there. Shockingly, he never acted up, and I ate lunch with him in the cafeteria so as not to go into the staff room because I felt, I just graduated and I didn't want to go into the staff room. He came and visited me at Western when I was at business school, and I remember it being a very nice weekend, except for the fight almost with the Western football player at the bar. He most definitely approved of Roman as my husband, and they enjoyed hanging out. In fact, he walked both Lori and myself down our aisles at our weddings. Craig was in and out of our house often. We asked him many, many, many favors over the years, and while the response may not have been timely, I knew I could speed it up by giving him a home-cooked meal. And so eventually bedrooms got painted, tree branches got cut, and wool got closed. Nobody ever said time management was his forte. We shared a curiosity for history, including family history. We both loved British drama, our very favorite show being Call the Midwife. He'd pick up the DVD sets at the Thornhill Library, one of his favorite places. I know, it's a weird thing. This is a guy whose favorite show was about nuns and midwives in the 50s and 60s in East End London. He was looking forward to the next set. We shared an interest in the Beatles. He picked books and memorabilia to send me. In fact, one day I picked up the phone and he said, just listen. And it was Paul McCartney singing, I'll Follow the Sun, at his sound check. Craig had his phone against the speaker. I will miss this generosity, the stories of his adventures, his observations about human behavior, his really, really, really long phone messages, sometimes voiced on one of his characters. And the messages never really said anything except hi. It just took that long to say hi. I will miss his ideas for excursions, and I will miss discussing the idea that we could live on the same piece of land and keep each other company in our old age. We will keep him alive through stories and pictures and laughter. He was the best little brother. Good night, Craigie. Till we meet again, your loving sister, Cynthia.
I've read many beautiful condolences describing Craig as the gentle giant. He, for those who don't know me, but you probably do by now, I'm Craig's sister Lori, the second oldest evil sister of Eastwick, as Craig would sometimes refer to us. When growing up, and even now, never did I think I would be standing up here in front of you, under these circumstances, telling you about my little brother, without him here laughing or helping me to embellish on our childhood stories. As you may know, we were 4 siblings, and Craig being the only boy, well, let's just say, we sometimes took advantage of Craig being the only boy in our family. If Craig wanted to play with us, being the younger than Cindy and I, we could get Craig to do anything, like dressing up in our second mother, Dorothy's lingerie. While Cindy, there's also a picture. While Cindy and I wore a full peignoir set, including matching pom-pom sandal slippers, Craig wore a leopard print nightie. Outside, we would go running and frolicking in our backyard. And as you start to envision this, you need not worry, because Craig took on the role of Tarzan. From a very young age, Craig loved nature and being outdoors, especially walking with our dog Chum, exploring the woods by the public school where we lived across from, known as, at that time as Woodland Public School. It wasn't very often he wasn't without a pencil or a piece of paper sketching any wildlife he could find, usually birds and owls. Some of you may not be aware that when he was older, he took a few lessons from Robert Bateman, who told Craig he had a lot of talent for drawing wildlife. Sometimes I would go on his adventures, and there was one time in particular we made a massive discovery in the woods across from our house. Craig found a rather large bone in the dirt. We started to dig around a little bit more and realized that this was really important, as bones were popping up everywhere. Now you have to remember that when building Woodland Senior Public School was being built, and they had found some what they thought was indigenous things over in the senior side. So we thought that we had discovered something really important. and that, I think Craig was in grade 4 and I was in grade 7. Our imaginations went wild. We quickly ran back to our house, grabbed a couple of shovels and a number of big green garbage bags, and ran back to our discovery, which we both thought for sure either Life magazine or National Geographic would be interviewing us about our discovery. We managed to fill up 3 or 4 large bags of bones of all shapes and sizes and drag them back to the house, where we hid them in the garage because, of course, we had to keep this a big secret. Unfortunately, during that time, our mother, Dorothy, one day had gone out to the garage and could smell a very musty smell perforating the corners of the garage. Thinking about this now, I wish I could have been a fly, one of the flies actually hanging around those bags when she opened them up, just to see her expression on her face. Needless to say, after discovering through my science teacher's investigations, Craig and I had discovered a farm's burial ground for their dead animals. So Craig and I were forced to drag those bags back and rebury the bones. Remember how carefree our parents used to be about our welfare in the 60s and early 70s? Well, my parents were no different. Often we found ourselves thrown out the door in the morning of a weekend with a packed lunch and told not to return till dinner. So we decided to go to the Toronto Ladies Golf Course. It's probably good we didn't have our venue there today. I'm not sure if Susan was old enough during this particular summer, but as obedient children that we were, we would leave every weekend to watch the ladies golf. When I mean watch the ladies hit their balls from the tee at the top of the hill down to the next hole, which was at the bottom of a very curved paved pathway that took them a few minutes for them to come down. So while they did this, one of us would come out from our hiding place in the deep bushes, take one of their golf balls, and run back to our hiding spot, covering our mouths so that they couldn't hear us laughing, while Mabel was desperately trying to find her ball and explaining to her friends, I'm sure it was here. After a while, Mabel took out another ball and continued on our way. Then we came up with another idea. While Cindy and I would take turns taking the balls, Craig would sit up at the top of the pathway on the hill and would ask one of the ladies if they would like him to take their bag down. Now we all know how charming Craig can be. And they always said yes. They would pay him for his effort. After a full day's work, and as dinner was coming soon, he would leave the golf course and start to walk home while selling the golf balls to people in their houses along the way. Before going into the house, we would pool our money and split our winnings. How to describe Craig as a young boy into his early teens? He was a combination of Dennis the Menace with a twist of Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver. For example, the number of times in public school I would see Craig's face planted up against the wall of shame inside the principal's office. I also remember his first physical fight in Thornhill High School. He was in grade 9 and I was in grade 12. Yep, watching somebody being dragged off by my PE teacher and realizing it was Craig, where he was bragging he won his first fight. When he got older, he became the eccentric fun uncle. His nieces and nephews loved him as you never knew what Uncle Craig was going to do next or what storage locker your Christmas present came from. One year, Craig gave both Cindy and I each one of those framed multiple mirrors that looked like it had been made from old barnwood. I loved it, and I hung it up in my family room. About 3 months later, he asked me if we could have it back, and he would replace it with a picture. The picture he brought really did not go with my decor. It was painted palm trees on a beach. To be honest, it looked like one of my children had painted it. Then I was discussing this with Cindy before today, and she told me that he did the exact same thing with her mirror that he had given her that was on the wall, but hers got replaced by a Rubik's 7 picture. I don't know how that worked, but anyways,
It's really nice. It's from the family room.
Craig also got involved in being an extra in a movie made for TV with Chris Christopherson in the 80s. After his heart attack a year ago, Craig told me he wanted to slow down in his labor and business and take on more of a line of work that he was passionate about, with his art and his out. He even told me that he was working on a screenplay. Both Craig and I shared a passion for the arts. When I was doing musical theater in Ontario, I was always trying to encourage him to audition with me. And with his powerful presence, I could just see him going up onto that stage, and he when he walked into a room, I think you can probably see what he would have been like me he would love to have done it, but due to his time commitments that are required for musical theater, he unfortunately wouldn't be able to. Craig's love for exotic birds allowed him to procure a special bird handling license. He was able to hang out with falcons, eagles, and various owls. Just before he passed away, he did my girlfriend's twins' 9-year-old birthday party, where they were having a Harry Potter theme. He was able to show off a large owl and his adopted baby owl, Chippy, whom he loved more than anything. My girlfriend, Claire, said he was quite the hit and would make sure that his name would be spread around for other parties. He rang to tell me all about it and was thrilled to finally do something which he was passionate about and in front of an interested and inquiring audience. Having moved to BC, Craig and I often talked on the phone to see how and what both of us were doing. Last September, I was able to spend some one-on-one time with him in Quebec City, going to our birth mother Linda's grave site, which he had never been to, and revisiting our grandparents' house with my Aunt Carol and where my Aunt Claudette still lives. It was amazing to watch the boy that wondered Craig as he walked through the house and outside of it while we reminisced our summer times with our grandparents and took photos, as Craig was only 2 when our mother had passed away. That time I spent with him I will never forget, and it will always be very special to me. There are too many funny stories and predicaments Craig got into during his life, and was quite the entertainer when telling them. But as you know, they will always be remembered and retold, saying that Craig, I think of you every day. You will never be forgotten and will always be missed by each and every one of us, especially all of your nieces, nephews, great-nieces and nephews. You leave a large hole in my heart, you friendly giant, and as Frank Sinatra sang, and I will use a slight change of his words, you lived your life your way. Love you, Craig. Until we see each other again.
Hi. A lot of familiar faces here, but I haven't seen a lot of you since I was about 15, so sorry if I didn't recognize some of you. For those who don't know me, I'm Sue, Craig's little sister. Everybody's been talking about how fun and funny he was, and what a great guy he was, and he was. He'd give you the shirt off his back. He'd be ripped, and he'd be covered in paint, and he'd crack a joke while he was handing it to you, but he'd give it to you. But I was his little sister, and I have that unique perspective of being Craig Campbell's little sister. After my mom died, let's just start with this. I used to snitch on him every chance I got. It's my job as a little sister. When my mom died, Craig and I found some journals that he had written when he was a kid, and they were filled with passages such as, I was supposed to go to Nick's cottage this weekend, but Susan snitched on me, so now I'm not allowed to go. And I did snitch on him. Usually when I was trying to follow him around for something, and he didn't want me there. There was one time my parents had gone to Florida for a week, and my mom, as a special treat, had stocked the downstairs fridge with pop from the pop shop, which was a huge deal. So I went looking for Craig one day downstairs, found him swigging pop from a bottle, and did what any good little sister would do and ran right upstairs to tell my grandmother. And then I went back downstairs to inform him he was in big trouble. Then the temptation got too much for me, and I took a swig of the bottle, turned around, and found myself staring right into my grandmother's eyes. Snitching karma. Craig was a pretty sentimental guy too. When we were going through his things in Thornhill, we found a couple of jars of marbles that were his and mine when we were little kids and we used to play with them. He held on to stuff like that. He held on to marbles, letters, movies, books, anything that meant something to him. As we grew older, Craig and I had always had a good relationship. When I started dating, it was fun. He was always quick to check out my potential boyfriends, and most of them were terrified of him because by then he'd gotten so big. A lot of you here will remember the Kelseys in Thornhill as the high school hangout. Great place to go for underage drinking. I was there one night with some friends, and this guy kept trying to talk to me. We call him Jake. Jake wouldn't leave me alone, wouldn't leave my friends alone, wouldn't stop hanging around. So Craig came in and sized up the situation pretty quickly. Came right over, put his arm around me, and pretended to be my boyfriend. That was great. Jake soon got the hint, decided to walk out. This is a packed Saturday night at Kelsey's, and if you remember it, you know how big it was. Craig waits till he gets all the way to the front door, yells out, "Hey Jake, good to meet you, buddy. Hope that rash clears up." That's true. Yes, we were froze. We never saw poor Jake. As Cindy and Lori mentioned, Craig loved his nieces and nephews, and they loved him back more than 15th, Craig walked into the store and started yelling out at the top of his voice, "Where's the butter?" to anybody who was listening. And poor Jonathan was just like, "Ugh, where's the floor? I want to swallow it." It was just not a good time. But we have all stories like that with Craig. It's just how he was. As hard as this is to be here today, it's really comforting to see all of you here and know how many people cared for him and cared about him. You know, his lifelong friends, his university buddies, people he mentored along the way. You'd be really sad to miss a party like this and not see all of you. I want to thank everyone who's been involved in this, but especially Scott and Cindy. Scott, you did him proud. And I'm going to miss your songs.
Don't make me cry.
I miss my brother. We're always going to feel this hole. I'd like to think he's up there regaling my parents and grandparents with stories and adventures of what they've missed. It's been the four of us for so long. And I'm hoping there's an hour or two up there for him to look after. I'm going to hang on to those models I found because I plan on taking them again.
Check this. Doesn't
Thanks for coming, everybody.
I think it's working in the next room over. I think it's the next room over. Is taking over. Tack.
What are we taking just a quick break because I think we want to be able to hear.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Let's skip it.
Okay.
No, hang on. Take quick note. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're back. Now I'd like to introduce Scott Martin, a lifelong friend of Craig, and co-conspirator in many skits and songs. Thanks, Jim. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's too bad.
I'm gonna get into it right away. So if I have to lose it halfway through, we can just take over. And hopefully, you're not getting paid by the word. I'm about as nervous as Marty Bird on the way to see Navarro. So I called this a long goodbye because I started to write it, like literally when I found out the news. I wanted to quote Shakespeare because I thought it was appropriate here. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and entrances, and one man in this time plays many parts. Very few people have played bigger and, God, I can't read my writing, played bigger and in many parts of my life than Craig Campbell. He was the little brother I never had, the man with a plan, my songwriting partner in skit was, but most of the time, one of my best friends. I shared all my dreams and my hopes. He lit up everyone's here we go game.
Keep going.
Keep going, just yell.
Just yell.
Batteries.
Start over. A little glucose granny. Take two, come on, take two.
Yeah.
Take $100 off the bill, I'll tell ya. Yelp review. It was my guitar. Does anyone know the lyrics to Glucose Granny?
Yep. Yep.
Do it.
So this is, when I got this printed, the Godsend of an Angel in up in Thornbury Riverside Press, she read some of it. And all she could say is, wow, you guys got yourself in a whole hell of a lot of trouble with the You get it. Is this microphone coming anytime soon? Don't keep going?
Yeah.
We can hear you. All right.
Yeah.
No, so Craig lit up everyone's world, and I was lucky enough to have a ringside seat. And the thing I hate the most is now I have to use the term was as opposed to is when I'm referring to Craig. And that really sucks. But I can tell you one thing. Craig would want us here not crying into our beers with sadness, but crying into our beers with laughter. So I suggest everyone tops up their drink. Let's take a trip down memory lane and let the healing begin. Because one of his favorite lines from a Jimmy Buffett song was, if we couldn't laugh, we would all go insane. When Craig passed away suddenly on his birthday, and after the initial shock wore off and the sad reality set in, I kind of wondered what other famous people had passed away on their birthdays. Because Craig always seemed bigger than life and famous to me. And the one that came to mind the most was Shakespeare. And I thought two things. I said, Craig, you're in pretty good company, man. You've got a kindred spirit like William Shakespeare, creative genius. The second thing that went through my head was, in all due respect, Mr. Shakespeare, even you, in your wildest dreams, could never have created a character as extraordinary as Craig. Well, that's all for it, folks. Anyway, I've known Craig over 50 years, and I met him in Sunday school. I didn't really know him, believe it or not, and I didn't really know him that well, and he coerced me into hiding all the prayer books, because he hated Sunday school. He figured if we hid the prayer books, they wouldn't have Sunday school. We got sent down to the church office. Our parents were livid. He got grounded for the summer, and my dad beat me till I peed. I connected with him a few years later at the ladies' golf course, where he reluctantly got me a job, because we're kind of aware of each other. We didn't really know each other that well. And, you know, I was into sports, he liked nature. I thought that was weird in the first place. And he kind of looked funny, like he looked like he got his haircut at the liquor store. And he looked like Gilligan on Gilligan. And I was marginally better. But we gradually became friends because of humor. So what we would do, we would, like, actually didn't do any of the job. We basically amuse ourselves by doing things like we used to Vaseline the handles of the golf carts and take it up to the elderly members, and we'd go, Merle, there's something on my hand. And then the other thing we did, we got this thing called a laugh box from the joke shop. I can't pay for this.
Hello?
Yeah.
I can't talk anymore. I've lost my voice here. So we got this thing called a joke box at the, it's called a laugh box at the joke shop. And the pro shop was right above where we were downstairs. And members would come in and we could hear all the conversations. So members come in and we would strategically hit the laugh box. You'd have members coming in saying, I had a really terrible weekend, my mom was very sick, and bingo, the laugh box. And then the assistant pro basically said, okay, one more stunt like that, boys, and you're gone. But our friendship blossomed, and we spent countless summer days together. He spent a lot of time at 24 Helen with my parents. They took him under his wing. They had a soft spot for Craig, especially my mom. And Craig loved, he loved people, and he loved people that took care of him, and my parents really brought him in as their own. And he was the first person to call me when my mom passed. He called me to console me. But I ended up consoling him because he was so heartbroken. He was in tears. So after the ladies' golf course, we went to Thornhill High School, and we're both really, really shy. Believe it or not, Craig was a really shy guy back in those days. If you look like that, you would be shy, to tell you the truth. Me too. And high school is a very intimidating place, because as a kid, all you want to do is fit in somewhere. So we joined the football team to try to impress girls. That didn't work. But what we found is we had, our one connection was humor, and we loved music, especially the Beach Boys. We loved harmony. And Craig was starting to make a name for himself in school. He was a brilliant artist, and he started to do some very unflattering cartoons of some of the teachers, mostly the males. So he would, like, I think there was a drafting teacher named Miss Jerry King, a librarian, and he did him teaching a class in his boxer shorts with black socks on, being held up by suspenders. And then I remember one day he came to me and he said, take a look at this, you know, and it was the best of the Flintstones. And the animation was spot on. I think it was done by Hanna-Barbera himself. And it wasn't the Flintstones as we know. This is the adult version of the Flintstones. And I go, what are you going to do with that, Craig? And he goes, I don't know. Like with that little twinkle in his eye that he always had. And I forgot about it. And then I came out of class about an hour later. And if you've ever been to Thornhill High School, there's a big hallway. And in that hallway, there's a big trophy case. And so I round the corner, and there must be 25 students, 5 deep, looking at this trophy case. And he's got the best of the Flintstones in there, doing the full Monty. And I see a teacher frantically running down the hall with about 2,000 pounds worth of keys on a keychain, trying to open it. I think that teacher went on short-term disability after that, and half the students are in therapy today. So Craig and I used to make up skits with each other. We had an old man mask and spent hours doing these skits, and gradually word got around that, you know, these guys do skits and it's pretty funny. So in the middle of a party, they would just stop the music and give us a half an hour to do our material. And one of our favorite skits was called the Liberal Skit. It was a popular one, and as Jim stated, it was way beyond political correctness. But it involved an up-and-coming teenage hockey star being interviewed by a creepy reporter from the local paper known as Liberal, who arrived in a trench coat. He had a suspicious-looking briefcase, a camera, and a jar of cheese whiz, and was preoccupied when his parents might arrive home. We had a magical summer of 1980. That was when Cindy moved out of the cottage on Sumner Lane, and I came back from an ill-fated excursion out west to try to become a lumberjack or some ridiculous whatever, and I was homesick and on the phone with Craig every day of the week, and he said, just put that stupid idea in your head and come in and move in with me. So I move in to Sumner Lane. It was a beautiful little English cottage at the end of an estate. And so I moved in with Craig, and we shared this living tiny space with a snare drum, my guitar, and a pet boa constrictor named Cuddles. And we had a lot of fun with Cuddles. We used to surprise unsuspecting guests would arrive, and I'd be on the snare drum in my underwear with my hair greased back and sunglasses, and Craig would come bouncing out of his bedroom, undressed like a male stripper with a G-string on, with a snake wrapped around him. And it was a funny skit. But evidently, boa constrictors, they get scared, and when they get scared, they have loud noise that's going to frighten them, and they start to constrict. So we kind of stopped that little skit. But it was kind of a magical summer because it was coming of age. We discovered girls. I had my dad's pickup truck. Craig worked for my dad as a helper. I was a plumber's apprentice, and we spent weekends up at the Kitabala. And halfway through the week, we'd go down to the waterfront and have some fun down there. And every Friday, when we would leave from work to go on an adventure for the weekend, my dad would always say to Craig, "You be a good boy now, Craigie." And then that was the same summer Urban Cowboy came out. Remember that movie? And we must have saw that 12 times. And we took in Lone Star beer, and then we went up to the Parkway General Store to buy some cowboy gear. So we basically got these cowboy boots and these outlandish shirts. We didn't look like cowboys, we looked like Hungarian pimps. But Craig, as I said, had a real sentimental side to him. He never forgot how my dad took him in
And about 2 years ago at Christmas, I sent my dad a beautifully written, handwritten letter to my dad, thanking him for taking under his wings all those years, and basically helping him, as he said, eke out a living. And it brought a tear to my dad's eye, which is a feat in itself. And is this going on too long, folks? I need some refreshments.
That's not your glass.
Tastes good anyway, man. I don't know when we started writing songs, but we're always fascinated with funny lyrics and satirical type of work. And so Craig came up, he goes, I got this idea for a song. It's the male version of a sugar daddy. I go, what's it called? He goes, Glucose Granny. I said, well, how's the verse go? He goes, got myself a glucose granny, better than a sugar daddy, a wee old widow who's worth her weight in gold. I'm just waiting for that hearse to pick her up and leave that purse. I hope he hurries before the coffee gets cold. And I said, brilliant. And we finished that song on a trip down to Florida in my CRX, and he had all the original lyrics on a Rolling Stone magazine. I've only got a couple stories to that. This one is a beauty. He wasn't someone you could put into a box. He was larger than life. And Craig was Craig. And if you tried to make him different, he would kind of rebel. And so what happened, and we learned the hard way, my friend Bill Buckler, his dad, Les, had bought a place down in Homestead, Florida. And it was a little gated community, and Bill wanted to have a couple of his friends down. So he said to Les, and Les knew most of his friends. He definitely knew Craig from the Cordham Open. You know, big, loud, gregarious guy, always entertained the room. And and Bill said, well, Les said, who's coming down, Scott? I said, well, you know, Doug Heron. Yeah, that's good. Paul Hollingshead. Yeah, Scott Martin. Yeah, that sounds fine, Bill. I'll tell you right now, I don't want the likes of Craig Campbell down there. So we're going, oh Christ. So anyway, so we say, Craig, we want you to come down there, but if any neighbors, anyone asks you who you are, you're Paul Hollingshead. Paul Hollingshead is about 5'8", reserved. Craig's, 6'9", and we're basically saying, Craig, don't be yourself. Which is like saying to Dracula, be Dracula, but you can't drink blood. So we go down there and we went golfing and come back and Craig's nowhere to be found. And so we go down the community center. There's like a central area where everyone gathers as a bar. We walk into this place and we hear this piano music going and they're singing show tunes and having a hell of a time. And we walk around the corner and I didn't even know Craig played piano. And he's playing the piano, there's 6 couples around him and they're going, Paul, play us another show tune. Do you know Moon River, Paul? That's unbelievable what you're doing here. And then we came home one time and the neighbor next door is doubled over in laughter. He's having a, and going, holy crap. So Les comes down 3 weeks later and the neighbor goes, hey Les, yeah, your son Bill was down with a couple of his buddies. That Hollingshead, God, he must be 6'9". Was he a football player? And God, he had all of us laughing down there and just playing show tunes. And when's he coming back? Well, let's put 2 and 2 together pretty quick, and 2 + 2 equals Craig Campbell. I didn't get to hang out with Craig over the last couple of years. He was so busy doing his thing, but he came up for my birthday 2 years ago and he arrived about 5 hours late. Jonathan there and Doug Heron. But he did stay for a couple of days and we got to catch up on a lot of things. And he was, as Jim said, he changed the temperature of the room. And this is probably one of the funniest things I've seen him do. He took me out for dinner and there was a snowstorm coming in off of Georgian Bay. And I said, why don't we go across the street to the Cranberry Cidery and see if we'll have one nightcap. So we go over there, I go in and the place is, pretty much shutting down. I said, yeah, 15 minutes, pour you one drink, whatever. So I go and tell Craig that. And then he goes and parks his truck. I go in and about 2 minutes later, I'm wondering what the hell is he doing? And the door bursts open. And all you can see is a 6'5" silhouette of Craig and a blinding snowstorm behind him.
And he goes, "Open up, folks, I'm coming in with 3 busloads of seniors with very complicated medical problems." Well, we didn't get the drink. In closing, Craig obviously had a profound effect on my life and on a lot of lives. Yet I got the feeling sometimes he considered some of his own life misspent. He was always talking about working on a creative project of some kind that never seemed to get off the ground because work always got in the way of it. And I took him down to Barbarian Steakhouse for his birthday, and he had this idea of a screenplay. It was called Elliot's Pond. It was the story of a little leopard frog named Elliot, and lived in a tranquil little pond with a cast of characters, and all the adventures they got into, and their little environment was going to be turned upside down by a housing developer. See, Craig was always fiercely protective of nature and the environment, and way ahead of his time, and I thought it was a brilliant idea. And so did he. And maybe he thought, maybe this will make me rich and famous, and I'll finally get the mother-in-law that he always referred to. Craig, you might not have been rich and famous, but I think you achieved something far greater in your life than riches and fame. I might need your help. No, I'm just joking. Just look around this room, Craig. There's not one person here whose life you haven't touched. And each one of us is a better person because of you. We are your screenplay, Craig. We are the actors, bit part players, and the soundtrack of your life. You played a part in all of our lives, some big, some small, but all of them equally important to the lucky people who were able to walk down some of life's paths with you. I miss you. Although your song may have ended far too soon, your melody will linger on in my heart forever. I'm good, I'm fine. Thank you for all the memories. Thank you for being my friend and coming into my life all those years ago. Until we meet again, you be a good boy now, Craigie.
Why is not printed, showing on the screen? It was all set to go.
Is there a thing to go?
What the heck? I thought I was technically challenged. Now I know I am.
We'll play it at the end.
Okay.
Nick Simpson is another of Craig's close lifelong friends. The mic is yours, Nick.
When in doubt, force it. Okay, we're gonna take it down a notch. Not the microphone. I'm not nearly as funny as everybody else. My claim to fame is knowing Craig the longest. That's about my claim to fame. I'm not funny, but I'll bring it down. Although I have to say, Cuddles, I'm going to go off piste here just for a minute. Cuddles, the boa. So Craig lived in that little cottage with Cindy and a whole bunch of people over the years. But lived in this little cottage on the lake bank on the Don River. And Craig phoned me one night to do something, go down and find something, go into the cottage. The cottage is locked. So I go around back, and the back is over the bank, and there was a little veranda thing that was, I think, Craig's bedroom. And I'm reaching around, and I'm standing on, I don't know what, and I'm up and kind of hanging on, and I open the window, pitch black, open the window, and I'm feeling around like there's a light here somewhere. I don't know. Click on the light, and a snake and I are face to face. I think I ended up somewhere in the river. But lived to speak about it. So Craigie, 55 years of Craig. And Craig and I were in grade 1 together. So we go way back, and this isn't a contest or anything, but we knew Craig the longest. But it just kind of shows the complexity and the depth of Craig's character. He kept in touch with people forever. So this little skinny grade 1 kid, as Scott said, tiny little guy, became larger than life in all of our lives, and we took on the world together until the teachers separated us, actually, after grade 4. And never again were we classmates, but we had tons of adventures together. Our first big work adventure away in 1979, many times at farms and cottages and stuff that we did, and Craig moved around, and we hung out a lot. But the main thing was he became part of our family, and he really was like the brother to me. And I know lots of people feel that way, and that's great. But Craig was a big part of our family. He spent most of Easters and Thanksgivings with us, and you can just imagine the larger than life as you said. And he was very helpful to my mom, who's 96 and still in her own house. And the last couple of years, Craig was back and forth, sometimes multiple times a day. Mom did eggs for Craig, and Craig would come by and do her plants and pots and all sorts of things. And anyway, Mom says thank you, salute you, Craig. She greatly misses you. Craig formed bonds with all sorts of people, which really speaks to the depth and complexity of his character. These bonds and incredible loyalties of friends and relations, colleagues, business associates thrive because of all his capacity to show how much he cared, while absent always in his punctuality, came across in virtually everything else he did. He was always loyal and dependable in every other way. Life was an adventure to him, and he found it at every turn, sometimes meeting famous people or seeing amazing things and unusual sights. A mundane trip A to B often became something else, sometimes something extraordinary. It took his schedule off track more often than it stayed on. Quick-witted and eagle-eyed, his talent was massive to his own distraction. He could have been an A-list actor like Vince Vaughn, a writer, an artist, an illustrator, a naturalist, a raptor handler. Reverend Craigie showed up every now and then. Send your last money. Send it. What to choose? Opportunities and people found Craig, and he cultivated those relationships, and we loved him for it. There were parts of his life he lived as a rock star, times when he was homeless. He lived actually in this building for part of one summer when he was on outs with Dorothy. But he would come back happy and whatever else. He had the capacity to bounce back. He was genuine friends with the super elite and the less fortunate, but he always made you feel annoyed sometimes, but mainly happy, to wonder, to dream, to laugh. I mean, to laugh till your guts wanted to break. He and I talked every few days about what we were doing, about work things, stress, about people and dreams. I really wish I had paid more attention to his complaints about his heart and his pains in his chest, and he didn't want to be a baby about it. Man, we thought we'd grow old doing this. Not long before he died, he pronounced his life as a success. He said, I can't remember the context why we even got into this conversation, but he said, I've had a great life. He was very proud, and he lived his life his way. The day he died, on his birthday, no less, he was off on another great adventure, making his way to Scott Martin's place in Collingwood via some property that he was looking at again near Shelburne. He was always talking about buying country property. I heard from him in an email at 12:28 a.m. He didn't live to go to bed that night. In retrospect, I'll be okay too. Thanks for leading the way, Scott. In retrospect, as a self-employed bachelor, his lifestyle of a 7-day work week, the stress of running his own business, which just drove him crazy sometimes, COVID, his diet and smoking, it was the perfect storm. Something I thought that had been fixed last July, or a year ago in July, with his surgery came back to bite him, and it was his own heart showing its mortality. He didn't live like anyone else. He did what he wanted to do, and turned down far more offers to do stuff than he accepted. Turned down far more offers to do stuff than he accepted, and rarely would accept help. It was life on his own terms, and he was happy doing it that way. Try as many of us did to change him. Craig's legacy is how he touched us. The hole he leaves now is new ground for me. I've known him for all but 6 years of my life. Nancy and I, my wife, Nancy there, figured he would ultimately retire somewhere around us in Halliburton. Sorry, Cindy, I had the dream too. Where he would keep bees as he loved to do and train raptors. You know, he was robbed of that and we feel cheated. So now I've got an advertisement. Craig loved raptors, and many of you rose to the challenge and gave some money to two charities of Craig's choice. So one of them, the Owl Foundation, there are information out on the front. So if you want to remember Craig loved raptors, and if you're looking for a way to say goodbye and make a sort of a legacy gift, I get no commission on this. The Owl Foundation is one. It's in Niagara. They're a foundation, obviously, that rehabilitates owls, all forms of raptors. And the other one is Woodland Wildlife Sanctuary. It's in Halliburton near our farm. They rescue and help and rehabilitate raptors, owls, reptiles, animals. We got involved with it because I read something about a hunter shooting a deer through the eye, and oh my God. So if you want, they are going to do something called Craig's Coop. So in one of their raptor houses, they're going to name a building Craig's Coop. So those brochures are out there too. I'm going by there tomorrow if any of you want to put something in an envelope for that. So anyway, sorry for the advertisement, but it's a way to remember Craig. So Craig, my lifelong friend, thanks for the inspiration, all the kindness, and all the laughs.
Thank you, Nick. Scott Townsend was also a longtime close friend of Craig's. In fact, Craig was very close to the entire Townsend family. So, Scott, here it is.
Thanks, Jim. Larger than life, brilliant, creative, funny, presence, big presence, quick, artist, talented, energy, friend, optimistic, perceptive, caring, gifted, reflective, laughter, incredible wit. These are the words that come to my mind when I think of Craig. In so many ways, he was brilliant. Did I say he was funny? For those of you that don't know me, I've had the privilege of working in professional hockey for the last 25 years. And when I was fired from my job in Columbus, it was Craig who brought some much needed humor to the situation when he said, in his big booming voice, "I knew he shouldn't have quit roofing. He'd have his own crew by now." I met Craig in high school through Scott, and we were lifelong friends, and he came to live in our house for 2 years. Craig was on a unique and alternate high school plan of 6 or 7 years. And my mother graciously offered our house to him when he needed a place to live. So he came to live with my mother and my two brothers, Paul and Eric, and me when I was home for the summers. He lived with us for 2 years before moving on to Western. And oh my, did we have a great time. The laughter, the pranks, the energy, the jokes. You can all imagine, you've heard all about it. He gave us some great memories and stories. But here's the thing, when I think about him now, besides all the great memories, it's about how I could have helped him. What did he need? What was he searching for? This unbelievably talented person, fun-loving, who could walk into any room and bring energy and make it lighter and better. He gave us so much. What did I give him? Could I have done more to help? You see, I think we were all too busy, having so much fun when he was around, enjoying his wit and his humor, laughing all the time, that maybe we didn't do enough for him. As I reflect on Craig, that is my lament, and I wanted to share it with you today. I'm sure some of you think about that too. I can say that my life is immeasurably richer because he was my friend. He made all of us laugh. What a gift. What a gift he gave to all of us. There was certainly a lot more to him, but that's what stands out for me, the joy that he brought to all of us. God bless and rest in peace, my friend. I hope there's lots of laughter where you are, and I hope you're laughing for as long and as loud and as hard as you made us laugh.
We'll now have reminiscences from Obi, a co-worker of Craig's, followed by Jonathan Hope and Craig McCann. Obi?
Jonathan Hope now.
It's better. Good afternoon. We're gathered here today to celebrate the life of Peter Craig Campbell. P.C. Campbell, as Craig would say. My name is Obi. This was the name that Greg bestowed on me. If some of you are not aware, this is the name of a character in Star Wars. At first I thought he called me that because of my height. But I am not sure if it's because of my height or if the character's name is Ben. I found out by my wife that the character's name was Ben and my name is Ben. As all of you know, Craig was a friendly giant. We called him a Lurch from the Addams Family. So for 29 years, our friendship, he was Lurch and I was Obi. I'm originally from Montreal, but I moved out here in '93. Since then, Craig and I have been friends, and not once have we bumped heads. But he was like that with everyone he talked to. He always left a smile on their face. We talked every week, and we would talk about his sister and his cousins out in Quebec City, and one of his best friends, Craig McCann. But in all that time, I've never met anybody from his family, neither have I met Craig. He was always talking about his family and was really proud of you guys. Craig was always busy building planter boxes at his home on Holmes Street. The house was falling down, but those damn planter boxes were made strong and he was proud of them. Craig would always write out his daily to-do list. He would always write them down on those Player's pack of cigarettes on the back of it. He would cut out a cardboard, he'd have a Sharpie pen, and he'd write out his to-do list on it. He had a stack of like these, with a Sharpie pen beside it. He would write out the important stuff to do. Going to water the plants at 9 o'clock in the morning. 11 o'clock, going to stop at the mechanics. 1 o'clock, take out the garbage at the complex. Back home at 3 p.m. to build planter number 4. And finish his day on 6 p.m. steak dinner on the barbecue. Craig loved his birds. This would also write down, staying overnight at the Baileys out back in the woods. Can you stay with me tonight, Obi? We gotta be there for 5 o'clock in the morning. The bird's gonna fly at 5 o'clock. He goes, I can't miss it, I gotta be there. So 3 days after that, Craig has passed. My wife told me to come quick to the window in the kitchen. I go, what do you want? What do you want to walk up there? There's a little owl, no, sorry. There's a little hawk sitting there perched on the window ledge. And it's sitting there looking at us. It stayed there for about 4 minutes. The hair on her neck stood up. And I knew now that was him telling us he was going to be all right. Everything was going to be fine. We miss you, man. We really do. Our thoughts and our hearts and our prayers for you. I miss you, buddy.
Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, or maybe you know me, but you don't recognize me with 40 years of wear and tear on me. My name is Jonathan Hope, and I had the honor and privilege of being Craig's friend for about 35 years. I'd like to start by thanking Craig's family for affording me the opportunity to say a few words today, so thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and this is certainly the case in this photo. This picture was taken around 2005. Craig, back, of course, the tallest, as usual, vacationing with my family in Lake Huron. My family, we all loved Craig dearly, and we considered him to be part of our family. He used to call himself the perpetual fifth wheel, but we never felt that way about him. He really was like a member of the family, not by blood, of course, but in spirit. Craig was always kind of like a guardian angel to all of us. He was always there for us. He was kind, of course, funny, generous, all those things that everyone's talked about tonight. But he was fiercely, fiercely loyal to his family and to his friends, and he was always willing to lend a helping hand, no matter what. Through thick and thin, Craig had our backs, and we had his. Like many in the room today, I first met Craig at Western University, UWO as it was known back then. It was 1984. And we were both looking to join the same fraternity, Sigma Pi. While the details around our absolutely meeting for the first time are sketchy, as are most memories from that period, I'm pretty sure we met at a party or some similar unproductive event. But he was larger than life right off the bat, both literally and figuratively. Many people have spoken to that today. He was goofy and over the top funny. He was different, but in all the right ways. I knew I liked Craig right from the start. One of my earliest memories of Craig is that he had a very unusual sense of fashion style. He is the only person before or since that could ever rock a pair of cross-country ski boots and pull them off as, the latest in Parisian fashion footwear. He wore those things proudly for an entire, I think it was 1984-85 school season, so I always will remember that. And like many have said, Craig was an enthusiastic storyteller. And I mean storyteller in the true sense. Part fact, part fiction. To put them together, they made for a hell of a story. As the French say, he had a certain je ne sais quoi that drew people to him. Charisma, someone mentioned that earlier as well, has been defined as charm that inspires devotion. And judging by the turnout of all the friends and family here in the room today, he clearly had it in spades. Craig would often join us on vacations at the cottage, as I mentioned. This is a picture from Lake Huron. My kids, who are here today, Ethan and Greer, they were always very excited by the prospect of a visit from Big Uncle Craig, the friendly giant. It was always a vacation highlight for them. When is he coming? When is he coming? All day long. And they would pester us, and eventually Craig would show, and as others have said, much later than anticipated. We were lucky if he came on the exact day that he said he would show. But with a twinkle in his eye, Craig always would burst out of the car. He used to drive a Chevy Lumina at that time, this photo. And I think it was one of the only vehicles he ever drove whose doors were all the same color. But, he would show up and he would burst his way onto the scene and declare to be Big Uncle Craig's Strangers with Candy tour. So, anyways, well, Craig really was like the Pied Piper of the beach. He led the kids and our kids' friends on all sorts of crazy adventures. The creek to catch frogs, rafting in the Lake Huron surf on stormy days, and on cloudy days playing games and amazing the kids with his artistic abilities. Whatever the kids wanted to do, Craig was up for it, and Mom and Dad appreciated the break. that's for sure. One humorous story that comes to mind from this particular vacation was that Craig was conscious of the fact that two young kids, it's often hard to get them down at the end of the day, especially when they've had so much fun. And so at some point in the night, nature was calling, and instead of fumbling around a tiny cottage bathroom, he was a big man after all, he decided that he would use the great outdoors. And sure enough, the next morning he woke up to the most horrific case of poison oak I've ever seen on his hands, his feet, and also in some unmentionable areas. But true to form, Craig never belied that. He kind of secretly whispered that fact. He said, "I'm dying here." But he was still a hit with the kids on the beach. Well, as the years passed, and our friendship grew, we spoke on the phone. Maybe it wasn't every day, but it felt like every day. Always laughing, always getting caught up with each other's going concerns. Craig and I would often spar over his refusal to embrace the smartphone. Drove me crazy. No siree, he was a Motorola, Razor, flip phone fan, full stop. No bothersome Wi-Fi or email capabilities for Craig. He didn't need any apps. That was just all too much for him. Often, I would see him call me on the phone, and I'd be busy, so naturally I would call him back and I'd say, "Hey Craig, what's up? What's going on?" And without fail, every time he'd say, "Did you listen to my message?" Craig, I'm super busy. I just use the call back feature, man. He's like, "You need to start listening to my messages." And anyway, so I never really understood why he got so upset. And then not long after his passing, my phone was acting up, and I took it into Apple. And of course, the kid was probably 19, and he looked at me like I had 3 heads. He's like, "Dude, your phone is packed with voicemail messages." And I lost count around 200 from Craig. And you know what? In the end, it's a blessing, because I've got a lot of these messages to listen to, and I've since listened to most of them. I've shared some with some of the folks in the room, but the reason he got so upset, because he went to so much effort. He probably recorded, delete. Perfect. But I used to get email, I got voicemails from many of his alter egos, which included Archie Bumbles, the klutzy plumber, Ernie Crickets from the Bug Emporium, whatever that is, George Fossilstone, the nosy neighbor, Ned, Ted, and sometimes Fred Jelly of no fixed address, or my kid's favorites, Corey, the kid next door. Craig created a whole crazy world for himself, and he often blessed us by sharing it with us. And every time I listen to his messages, it brings a smile to my face. And I know that my life has been a lot richer for having Craig in it. I know his life was full of family. We've heard so much about that today. Friends and laughter, lots and lots of laughter. He loved his family more than anything else. He used to brag about his sisters all the time. Craig's angels, I call them, lovingly, I guess. But I want him to take solace knowing that he was proud of his family, he was proud of his sister. He was such a beautiful and talented spirit. And I think it's safe that everyone in this room walks away with so many fond memories of Craig. And just know that your brother will be missed by many, many people. Thank you.
Craig McCann.
Reporting for duty, sir. Oh, how was that picture taken? I don't know if we're saving the best for last year, but I'll do my best to enrich our day here as we remember Peter Craig Campbell. Craig McCann is my name, Harv is the nickname, alias. Two Craigs in the same house, so living together created a lot of problems for ladies from the house, of course. He also tried to talk to the ladies I tried to talk to at the Seeps. He would basically do the same to mine. So, it's really hard for me. Obviously, we're all thinking today really the reasons why we're here today. I really couldn't bring myself to put some words together until this week. After that unforgettable night back last November. But as we've talked about in the countless speeches before me, there's a lot of reasons why we're here today. I can just feel the love of all the people in here. The buddies from Thornhill, the Sigma Pi fraternity brothers, Cowans, the crazy friends from around the infamous house on Holmes Avenue, employees from the property management, his loving sisters, his families from near and far. So we got that one down for sure, that Craig would want us all to be laughing as we smile at his memory today. For 35 years, or 55 years, well, I'm going to say 40 years. 40 years is what I have known that man. I would like to personally thank one lady in this audience for introducing me to Craig back in 1982. Lindsay, I love you. Thank you very much. It's created a lot of the memories that I've had through my years, and certainly some of the crazy pods of people that have come together, really, because of Craig. Speaking of stories, I've been advised by my lawyer to keep it to the PG version this evening. So if anyone wants to hear any of the non-PG, I'll talk to you at the bar later. Cindy, you referred to Craig as a raconteur. I don't know if I'm saying that properly. His obituary. Person that everybody waited for at a party. Yeah, he was that. He basically was a party. One of a kind. People gravitated to Craig. Some ran, but most gravitated to him. I mean, I can attest to both sides of that fence. I don't really think I've met a more creative, witty, talented, the words that have come around tonight, person in my life. If I had a nickel for every time somebody in my professional life or family said to me, your buddy, is he in movies? Is he a comedian? You know, he should be on stage. I would be a wealthy man if I got a nickel every time I heard that. I always told them that we got to get this script of your life on paper, and maybe we can get it to a movie scene at one point. It would have been one hell of a movie, that's for sure. Not many people know this in this room, but I met my wife of 30 years, Janie, because of Craig. One night of cocktailing, at the end of the night with the fraternity boys, we were all requested to go to this brand new club called Still Life. Brand new club on town in the district. And there was this pompous character dressed in a fur-length coat, full fur-length wolf coat or something, at the door, selectively picking people, who could come in, who could not. We weren't getting picked. This annoyed Craig. A few minutes went by and Campbell bellows out, "Hey buddy, Daniel Boone wants his coat back." Well, needless to say, we weren't getting in that far. So the pair of us stumbled down the street to Studebaker's, where we both barged in the door. The two Craigs walked in, and I guess the rest is history, Jamie. That's where it all started for me. So we had that big part in my life. Another story comes to mind. My Yellow Page career, 25 years in Yellow Pages. I took him on a sales trip down to Acapulco. Acapulco Princess, 5-star resort, sales incentive trip. Let's go. Bachelor Craigie. Bachelor Part 2, Craigie 2. Let's go. So upon arrival in Acapulco, we were treated to a boat tour around Acapulco Bay to view the infamous Acapulco cliff divers. So, with the boat motor turned off and everything in silence, and crowds, our Mexican tour guide says to these, "Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Acapulco cliff divers." Without missing a beat, Campbell bellows out, "You want to see a dive, you should come to my apartment." I still laugh at that to this day. It was one of his best, for sure. We've alluded to today that every day was an adventure for Craig. He beat to his own drum, led life on his own terms, without a worry, without a schedule, or a watch for that matter. Cindy, time management, what's that? Good God. He really wasn't on the internet or social media. A flip phone, Johnny. How many debacle Razor flip phones did we find in his place? 10, 20? A flip phone. Ladies and gentlemen, a flip phone. I used to tease him, Captain Kirk wants his phone back. His outlook for life, the simplicity of his life is what I envied. A true survivor. He was a survivor, guys. Been on his own since he was 16, 17. I was more amazed at how he connected with people from the perspective, young and old. He would talk to anybody. Anybody. The bus driver, the cashier at Rona, the variety store owner, the staff at Habitat for Humanity, complete strangers in the street. He would talk to anybody just to make them laugh and smile and feel good about themselves. He would go out of their way just to make their day, in my books. We all miss a lot of things about Craig. I can go on all day about this one, but for me, I'll miss your obtuse and one-kind sense of humor, your legendary one-liners. I got a couple. I know Martin, you probably have a few more. Where are the new boys? You are a bum. You're a bum. I don't think so, Mr. Flintstone. I'll keep the quarter. His love of animals, birds, nature, unparalleled. I'll miss his great voice, his love of music and movies. You can recall a line from a movie from God knows back, 4 decades back. I miss watching him draw. I used to draw, watch in amazement as he drew the editorial cartoons for the Gazette and some of the wildlife stuff that he'd done for all of us. I'll miss his weekly crank calls, Johnny. We got a lot of those. And our late night chats about life. Mostly, I'm going to miss being the great caring friend you've always been for me. A lot of people in this room. You're one of the most generous, loyal people that I've ever met. You're always there to listen and wouldn't hesitate to go out to help a buddy in need. Music was all over the place. I was kind of the rocker, Stones, Zeppelin, AC/DC. He was, that's other side with Jackson Brown, Eagles, the Knack, the Doors. The Doors are what I remember. We had a massive movie poster in our house in London. It was about 9 feet tall. Jim Morrison was every day we come in, hey Jim, how you doing? But in closing, I'd just like to leave you some choice words from a poetry of Jim Morrison that I feel kind of sums up what Craig stood for. Friends can help each other. A true friend is someone who lets you have total freedom to be yourself, and especially to feel, or not to feel. Whatever you have to be feeling at that moment is just fine by them. That's what real love amounts to, letting a person be what he really is. Rest easy, my brother, from another mother, as you would say. God only knows what I'd be without you. Peace on, buddy. See you next time.
At this point, I believe we have a video for you.
I don't even know.
Okay. This is what you're supposed to be seeing anyway. It's a collection of... Enjoy.
Now
That's nice. Now this.
You don't seem to understand. I'm a world-class turning diver. I was out there this morning inspecting the waters myself. I did a rigorous inspection of the entire waters. I could be diving those waters. I think it's too shallow. It's kind of dangerous, huh? No. I dived them this morning. I inspected them. I'll show you. I did a low neck one. You always want to make sure that your head pops to the surface afterwards. I think it's Hawaii, you drove me crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Inventions Today. I'm Skip Wolf with my co-host, not co-host, guest, so to speak. What's your name, sir? Chuck Groom. Chuck Groom here. He's had an invention that I think everyone's just taking to see. Would you explain a bit, Chuck?
Over the years, I suffered a massive bruises, bumps, and assorted scrapes and scabs on my cranial area because I seem to have a habit of bumping into concrete fixtures, walls, and so forth. So what I've done is made an inflatable cranial protector, which I prefer to call the noggin watcher. I'll give you an actual demonstration right now. It fits nicely over the cranium. As you see, it's nice and snug and not as conspicuous as you might seem to think. Oh, it fits nicely and you can walk around. I'll give you an actual demonstration. That's no problem because it's an available area. That's no problem anymore, and I've noticed a large reduction in the amount of headaches that I've suffered because of my bumping into things. No, not at all. And it retails for $14.95.
That is amazing. That's a great invention. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Skip.
Hello, everybody. This is Dutchy McCormick on Toys R Us and Inventors of the World. Today I've got, what's your name, sir? Aziz Mahavlich, and he's come up with some new device that's going to treat the squirrels at the parklands. And what exactly is it?
What we have here, with the squirrels mixed with their lovely breakfast and nuts and assorted goodies, is juice. Squirrel juice. Fresh juice for the squirrels.
Toys R Us and Inventors of the Future with squirrel juice and who knows what else. Flapjacks for squirrels.
Welcome to Careers in Technology. This is Skippy McCormick here, and today we're going to go over some of the interesting careers the youth of today and the youth of tomorrow will find themselves in. With me I have Cecil Cramp, who is one of the world-renowned beehive repairmen. Good to see you, Cecil. Yeah. Just what's involved in a beehive repairman's daily living?
Well, this whole beehive repair deal, that started when I was young. Like in school, when I saw a beehive from the trees. Skippy
McCormick here. We'll be back next week with more interesting careers on advancing technology.
Skippy McCormick here. How you doing? Welcome to Careers of the World. Today we have a very interesting fellow, and his name is, I'd like to come on over here. And your name is?
Reggie Tuck.
Reggie Tuck. Now Reggie Tuck, Dr. Reggie Tuck. Dr. Reggie Tuck is one of the world's most renowned salmon jockeys. Salmon jockey.
Focus just go.
Skip McCormick here on Careers of the World. We got another fascinating creature, another fascinating career, and I'd like to bring him out right now and tell you about it. And your name, sir?
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
I'm Butch Sweet Cheeks Paste.
Butch Sweet Cheeks
I'm the head ringleader of the Volcano Brothers Circus. I juggle scorpions.
Scorpion?
I'm going to bring in a buddy of mine who's an accomplice. Mr. Harvey Blemish. Come on in, Harvey.
Bargain wizard, we got bargain, we got hand grenades, foot grenades, lockers, screamers, doctors, downers, everything imported. We got hustlers, wrestlers, newbies, shoppers, dimwits, everything on sale, everything imported. We're open all night, we're open every day on Sunday. Everything on sale, 24 hours, Sundays, Mondays, Tuesday afternoons, any day is done, everything's on sale.
Oh, the magazines.
Oh, we got magazines, leaflets, folders, calendars, huge calendars, small calendars, trick calendars, anything you want. Oh, the glorious thing is done. Playing cards, we got playing cards, we got jump saucers, everything you want. Jump wax, we got foot grenades, everything. Tubes of sauce.
The sexual tablecloth.
Sexual tablecloth, we got name extenders, we got triple connectors, we got everything you want. Everything on sale.
The police whips,
doors, naval sleeves, everything. Oh, we're gonna leave there. Yeah, we got that Jack Holiday rectum moisture, we got anal ingredients, we got everything you want. It's all on sale 24 hours. All the time.
Tim, we've got everything like that. We've got Frank Mahoney's earwax. What else have we got there? Holy open. We got butt plugs. We got earplugs. We got teeth cavities. We got everything. We got false teeth that explode. We got puppies that scream. We got mustard that looks like chicken. How about the magazine? We need 35mm films.
35mm, 8mm,
17mm.
we got the panoramic
Video. We got all
there's some of the videos. Tell them 24 hours.
Men for the rash.
That's it. White spades and burgers. We got them all.
Boots and macaroni.
Yes, that's right. Nuns on fire. We got them all. We got all full-length feature films, all 24 hours, everything important. Pornography, we got all kinds. Loans, shelves, and cases of pornography. We got trucks coming in 24 hours a day in the back warehouse. Tell them something right.
We got 16mm film, 8mm, 17mm, every kind of millimeter. We've got video. We got tons of video. You wouldn't believe what we got. We got nuns and rashes. Got puppies on fire. We got Danny's Big Adventure. We've got Bauhaus Randy, Goat Skin Danny, Bunkhouse Charlie, Boots and Macaroni. You wouldn't believe what we got. Everything at all.
Come on, Nightland.
We got it all. Oh, yeah. Sex in space, sex in around the corner, sex in the doghouse, sex by the barbecue, everything. You can get whatever you want. We got, come on, the guys we got.
Well, some of the guys we got
2 guys, 76, 2.5 inches, 35 inches. Oh, the other guy, who's the other guy? Some guys we got Bernie Cloud, butt cushion, Mike tables. He goes to 85 inches to inside. Inside he's huge.
He's great. I got some of those movies at home. Yeah, I got 24 hours.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Movies. We're covered in 12-foot video screen sound.
There's one on right now.
There's one right on up there.
What is it?
It's White Spades and Barbiturates, I believe, film number 187.
Okay.
Oh, look at that talent. You can't believe it. You don't believe it. Come on down. Non-stop McDonald's. Now magazines a week. 12-foot screens. 12-foot screens.
I'm with the up-and-coming star of the tour, Mr. Jerry Rush. Jerry, what's the going on today? How are you doing today? Not too bad, you know. It's good weather, good round of golf. I expect a lot of big things. I see nothing but good, happy things out there for you. Good, happy things. Hey, it's going to be a good chance to lock this one up and take a listen, baby. I think this is the one. That's got to ask you, Jerry. Your strategy looks a little different today. What are you doing with the stretch going on? Well, they're saying that the play might affect some of the players, but not me. I find it out chilly here, actually, when I got this morning yelling. I wasn't going to draft when we was in the room, so I bundled up. I got the quad 4 oven buddy on, and that's going to protect me up, of course. Quad 4 oven buddy? What does the quad 4 oven buddy do for you? Well, the quad 4 oven buddy just keeps all my ears straight toward the center of my club, Steve. It's the quad 4 oven buddy to reflect the shield. Channeling a lot of energy down there. It's going to be very good bright right here at the course today. So that channel all the green abuse is down to the head of that shaft.
Gary Wright,
On the key for some Jerry Rice.
I'm wearing this one today. I get that going for me. Okay. Well, I'll see you later. Yeah. We'll be back. Let's go, let's go.
Red shirt. I think they could cut them once in a while. What do you think? It's like a cow pasture.
Come on, Campbell's only 4 feet.
Stakeout these things, sir. These need time.
But so the sun is, results in creative energy on the grass. Breathe, photosynthesis, all these things.
$5 says you don't make it.
I say $10.
You're already over $10. $5.
My name is Sweet James Tom. I can tell from a distance of 100 paces that you're going through some mild discomfort. I'm trying to make a putt, so I realize that the discomfort's coming down from your loins. When you get humidity like this, heat like this, it's very, very easy to attract that angry. Really? I would definitely make wrong.
Campbell, will you hurry up?
I gotta make my mind. I'm fine, son, but I appreciate you coming out to the public. Listen to me first. I beg you to listen. Campbell, I gotta make my mind.
Hurry up.
Guys, I'm not interested. This is New Jersey's finest baby powder. One application, $45. Repeat treatment, $20. I got a little trailer right amongst the trees. Listen, son, I can go on. I'm gonna put something in the control. This guy on this button. You look at that. You didn't get any of that crap on me. Hurry up, you got cake.
Yes, we're here with Mr. Chuckles, the assistant to the Ben greenskeeper, Archie Gables, and Mr. Chuckles, how do you explain the condition of the screen today?
I know it's not quite like a turn to play, but I noticed this. I noticed this from the clubhouse this morning. I was having a cocktail, and I noticed this. And I was going to get to this last week. I was going to, suggest maybe a hydrogen supplement or something, but I got carried away with the ball washers and the ice coolers, and I was in the club again, of course.
But this is atrocious. This is the cardamom open.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll have grass right here by the end of the day. Little problem arose when I was mixing the mixture for this Edson salt and thiamortrim, and we put it in the big spreading tank. I'll be darned, I thought Archie said, put 7 glugs in there, but I was plugging in the supplement mixture, and I think they're more capricious than glugs, to tell you the truth, and, well, that's the result. I guarantee grass like here within the day. We're working on it.
And remember, the captain is the most important role in the story. The captain? The Vulcan? Come on, Leonard, it's the captain that makes things happen. It's his story. Don't get serious. The audience watches the Vulcan.
Stop this, Craigie. It's pointless.
It is most logical.
Well, I'd say they're ready. What about you, Leonard?
Indeed, I think it's time to only go where you know, man, it's done. Looks like Jim Grant. Probably like Jim Grant. All like Jim Grant.
Medical log, stardate 8707.2. Dr. McCoy reporting. The crew of the Enterprise is busy readying itself for an ordeal that I'm sure will prove to be trying. A Starfleet training mission.
Dr. McCoy, the graduates are requesting permission to beam aboard.
We're ready down here, Captain.
Beam us up, Scotty. Mr. Chekhov.
Medical log supplement. Now we'll see how...
Welcome aboard the Enterprise. Graduates, you are expected on the bridge. I am Captain P.C. Campbell, and I'm pleased to serve as your commander. Mr. Zulu, ahead. Warp factor 1, no 5.
Captain, there is a vessel approaching.
Put up your shields, quickly!
Connie, tell us what.
You wait where the hit is, Captain. We're dead in the water.
Greetings, Enterprise. I am Crow. Want you, Captain Kirk? Wait, you're not Kirk?
No, but I am the captain.
Captain? Do not try my patience. Where's Kirk?
Like mine. The entire starship has landed in Crazy Girl's parking lot.
You will beam yourself and one other crew member aboard my ship. Then you'll accompany my warriors down to that planet's surface and be warned. If I don't find Kirk, I'll blow your ship across the galaxy.
What in places are you two doing? Mr. Chekhov, have you figured out the best parking situation at Crazy Girls?
Yes, we're giving over. Good! First, I'm going to kill this would-be captain with my bare hand. And then, I'm going to destroy Kirk and Federation headquarters.
Now I'm holding this little baby from a Lovecraft.
Call! Give me your coordinates. Now beam you to the Enterprise. No.
Paul, you've got to listen to me. Your people have signed a ceasefire agreement with the Federation.
What? Another ploy?
You have to believe me. Coordinates now. No! Beam us over. It didn't blow. But what about the photon detonator?
It's not a real gift, it's a gag gift from Lovecraft.
Not regulation, Captain, but very sexually effective.
So, all in all, I say this mission was a complete success. Well, Captain, what now?
Mr. Zulu ahead, warp factor 5 to Crazy Girls.
Sounds illogical to me, sir.
Captain.
A message from a couple of people who have gone to high school with Scott way back, and have on always these sort of occasions come up with a little bit of a little song or a little ditty, if you will. So I'd like to call on Scott Martin and Craig Campbell, who have written a very special song, Scott, for this evening, for you and Antoinette. Let's hear it for them. They're a little shy.
Thank you, Doug. I'm Craig, this is Scott, and over the years we've had a lot of fun writing songs for some of our friends, and I must say that we had a lot of extra fun writing this one, so I hope you like it. This here's a story about Antoinette and Scotty and how they arrived at this day. So sip on some red wine and we'll have a good time and listen to the song that we'll play. If you don't join the chorus, you'll soon start to bore us, so please sing along if you may. It's a short but a sweet one, it feels good, it's such fun. And don't be afraid, cause we'll show you the way. Ti amo, it's plain to see. Ti amo, it's meant to be. Ti amo, will you marry me? La vita a un ballo, balle con me. Now let's turn to Scotty, when fresh off the potty, he showed off his fine hockey skill. He bounced through the minors, with slap shots and shiners, it seemed a long way from Thornhill. He then made the Isles, he was all hugs and smiles, in his first game the net he did fill. It was drinks all around, till he was sent down, because then he decided to learn a new skill. Now everybody, ti amo, it's plain to see. Ti amo, it's meant to be. Ti amo, will you marry me? Life is a dance, will you dance it with me? La vita a un ballo, balle con me. Now here comes the part that just melts my heart, the day that their paths did collide. And here goes the story, it happened at Tory's, a love that they both couldn't hide. It was over to dinner, Scotcher picked a winner, the meals were great, he couldn't find. With the clan at the table, he was shaking but able to pop the big question, will you be my bride? Ti amo, it's plain to see. Ti amo, it's meant to be. Ti amo, will you marry me? Life is a dance, will you dance it with me? La vita a un ballo, balle con me. Now the sun will be setting on the shores of Cape Breton, and that's where they'll start their new life. Together forever, through all kinds of weather, standing as husband and wife. Scots with the Oilers, the Lobsters and the Boilers, and Antoinette has her own firm. Every knit together, two birds of a feather, they'll walk down the road and together they'll learn. Now everybody the last one. Ti amo, it's plain to see. Ti amo, it's meant to be. Ti amo, will you marry me? Life is a dance, will you dance it with me? La vita a un ballo, balle con me. May we bless you together, may you live happily.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Craig. This ends the formal portion of the afternoon, but I believe there's still some nibbles. I think the bar is still open, and of course, you can enjoy the very good company of Craig's family and friends. So, thank you very much.
Everybody take a second and raise a glass. God, a little hole in my heart will never heal. God bless you. I love you, brother. Great Campbell, the best man ever. Cheers.
Wow.
Who's that song? Yes, I did. We're calling that side. Great guy. Take care, okay?
Is that right? Your number's there? Danny, yeah. Yeah. I have a bunch of videos as well.
Just say hi to him.